Ukraea, semi-permanent modern furniture for your wartime budget that you put together. And by our patrons and supporters. If you like what Book of Hours is presenting, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours or join Rockfin at rockfin.com/bookofhours. You can also make a one-time donation with Cash App or use PayPal at paypal.me/bookofhours. Thank you. Hey.
Hello.
Hi, we're back, and I hope you're here too.
How is everybody?
I hope you're doing well. We are dealing with rain today. It's a dumpy, rainy day. It's like buckets outside.
Yeah, it was like really, really strong earlier.
Yeah.
It's really rainy.
Hey, Julie, now that it's oh, by the way, folks, it's May Day.
Yeah.
Today's May 1st, and May Day is the day that's, well, we've talked about this before. We don't have to go into it, but it's It's sort of like International Workers' Day.
Yeah. It feels like over the years, though, it's lost its meaning.
Yeah. Well,
it used to be, unions would really promote May Day and workers, and now not too many people really talk about it. It doesn't feel like it.
Once the Soviet Union collapsed too, I think that that also, those, do you remember as a kid like watching those parades on like the news?
Mm-hmm.
Like they'd show the missiles being paraded down the middle of Moscow.
Do we have chats up?
I can bring chats up. I've got videos up
that you have to share. So what I can do is just log on to one platform and see if we get any chats.
Yeah, let me see. I've got chats. Chats are here. Chats are there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so nobody's chatting yet. So that's fine. Let me see here. Yeah. Well, I won't put
as we get into more controversial topics.
I'm sure
the chats will come through. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start out with the fact that
first, hi, Rockfin.
Hey, Rockfin. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being a part of our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And hello, Twitter followers. And hello, Facebook community and YouTube.
And YouTube, yeah.
As well.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
that's okay.
interrupt you there.
No, thank you. Thank you for all of your support and concern and friendship and comments and suggestions and criticisms and
all that stuff.
And all that stuff. Thank you so much for everything. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month officially now. It's officially Mental Health Awareness Month. That's May.
I'm so glad because I've been feeling, Julie, kind of that May is such a pleasant month. Why did they have to assign it the depressing part?
Yeah, I don't know. It's first of all, it's a gimmick. It's another excuse to make money. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have anything to do with mental health. It's just an opportunity for the pharmaceutical companies to sell their pharmaceuticals to unsuspecting public.
That's so cynical. Why would they?
I know. But so I find that, certain headlines were over the last couple of days were trending really hard just before we hit Mental Health Awareness Month.
Just on the eve.
Today.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to bring up the links and all that?
For which one?
Well, the first one we're going to talk about, obviously, is Judd.
Yeah, so I didn't have any tab for her because everybody knows who she is, more or less. I didn't, bring up a tab for her. But as I was researching another topic story that we're going to talk about in this Suicide is Painless segment, I found out that Naomi Judd died, and I was like, well, we just released that video, The Reason. I wonder what the reason was they gave for her death. And I looked at Wikipedia, and her daughter Winona.
Actually,
both daughters.
Winona and Ashley.
Okay. Oh, Ashley. Yeah, that was the one that was listed in Wikipedia. She probably wrote it. Said because it was poorly written. Anyway, it said that she said that her mother died of mental illness.
Right. So today, let's see. Today, we sisters experienced tragedy. We lost our beautiful mother to the disease of mental illness. We are shattered. We are navigating profound grief and know that as we loved her, she was loved by her public. We are in unknown territory. Yeah, want to bet?
Mm-hmm.
This was completely staged. I'm such a conspiracy theorist that I believe that Naomi Judd died probably of getting the shot, probably getting the COVID shot, and probably like last week or maybe even a couple of weeks ago, and they've just been, keeping her body on ice and keeping it quiet for a little while so that they could present her as being, mentally ill and having, and allude to the fact that she took her own life, like on the eve of Mental Health Awareness Month.
And the day before, she was supposed to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Right. So that's supposed to happen today. She was to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame today, May 1st. So this is all very, suspect.
Yeah.
The timing is too perfect.
Exactly.
It's just, I'm such a cynic and I'm such a conspiracy theorist.
You don't even have to say that, because if you just look at the facts in front of you, the day before it's supposed to be Mental Health Awareness Month, our mother died of the disease of mental illness.
You can't die of a disease called mental illness.
Exactly. When I read that in the Wikipedia entry, I was like,
what exactly is that?
That's weird. That's a weird thing to say. And then you went and looked it up further, and just it so all these things line up to be just like pure propaganda, which we'll get into a little later in the show. But I felt like, and also, you said, they probably put her body on ice or whatever. It's like, you don't even have to do that. We know that because, they basically said that there was this killer virus out there, and they didn't have to show any proof of that.
Right.
So, you can say anything and repeat it enough and say that it's true, and people believe you, and it's true, right? It doesn't have to be real to be true.
Right.
And all these people that always scoff at the whole idea of relative truth or whatever, it's like, no, it's a real thing. It's all relative.
Right.
It depends on your worldview and how much you believe. So for those of you out there who believe that she died of mental illness, I've got a bridge to sell you. It's the McKees Rocks Bridge, and it's for sale, and I can sell it to you for very cheap.
Anyway, so the whole thing about Mental Health Awareness Month is that you're going to hear a lot of, your favorite commentators, especially on the liberal side, say things like check in on your friends, stuff that we hear constantly. And then you're going to see a lot more language around, people especially taking their own life. So the trending topic, which was sort of, given a big bullet point, was with Naomi Judd, when it was alluded to the fact that she took her own life.
Well, it was weird that I was researching another story on suicide when I saw that story pop up.
Isn't that crazy? And it's pretty rare for narcissists to commit suicide unless they want to really draw attention to themselves, unless they really hate their daughters, which she probably did. Like this is probably, I wouldn't put it past anybody in Hollywood, especially in their 70s or 80s or 90s, especially these narcissistic types, to to do these grand gestures
yeah,
just to draw like more attention to themselves.
Well,
you
Hollywood
know?
or Nashville is, the equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see where she died. She was born in Kentucky, but she actually, I was reading up on her, and she was living in Marin County.
Yeah.
She went to the College of Marin after her marriage broke up.
Yeah.
And it's like the College of Marin, that's where 420 comes from. That's where that whole thing comes from. So it's like there's anyway, so she was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and probably right. Exactly. And so she probably went to Nashville eventually. I mean, it's the Hollywood of the country music scene. It was weird. Well, just as a side note, I mean, this is how much, LA and Nashville are connected. It's like when we were in San Francisco, we went to Nashville a couple times. We couldn't fly directly from San Francisco to Nashville. We had to go to LA first. And there's a direct flight from LA to Nashville on the regular.
Like every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
one of the reasons we didn't choose Nashville as a place to land.
Yeah.
First of all, it's too expensive, and second of all, it was too much like LA.
Yeah, it felt like it. Yeah. Yeah. So without the ocean, right?
Yeah. And then without the ocean, like what's the point? So so the trending topic, especially now that's really hot is suicide. And we mentioned this either in one of our audios or we mentioned it in the last bookmark we did, where we talked about a movie called Being Mortal.
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to come out. It was supposed to be released soon. It was Aziz Ansari's movie, and then there was all this controversy about Bill Murray behaving badly, and so they had to can the movie altogether.
Right, and that's likely.
And when he and I researched it a little bit deeper, it's actually a very controversial topic. It's based on a book written about assisted suicide, basically, and either living out your life in pain or dying it with dignity and allowing yourself to be assisted suicide. And then so after that thing happened with Bill Murray, and they covered up the fact that it was a controversial topic, and that's probably the real reason why they canned the movie. All of a sudden, I started seeing a lot of tweets, especially about suicide. One in particular was really jarring. It was some guy saying that yesterday his girlfriend, and we're showing it right now.
Yeah.
His girlfriend's friend or his friend. Let's see. It's my wife's friend. Trust me, it's true. They're having a farewell party for her this Saturday, which was yesterday. So it was her farewell to life party that they had for her yesterday. So this is really really weird.
Right.
Like, I don't even know how to put it into words. I had to really read that a couple of times before I was like, wait, they're actually having a party, like a farewell party for this person.
And I've seen this kind of scenario on like TV shows or movies before where, and it's and I seem to recall the one movie, it might have been a movie, and it's sort of like romanticized.
It totally romanticized
the idea of it, but it also like did a weird sort of romanticization, whatever the word is, of old age.
Right.
Well, grandma, she's, not feeling it anymore. And so she's going to kick the bucket on her own terms. And, and it kind of goes back to like the On Golden Pond kind of like, romantic, view of old age as opposed to, just normal life. I mean,
living out your life, and then when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah. It's like,
you don't need to be helped along.
Right. And it's, and, oftentimes you'll hear about how, native cultures, the old person, once they knew they were going to die, they would go off into the wilderness and not be a bother to, that's bullshit. It's just
and then remember the controversy around,
whether it happened or not, it's
the movie that, it was the Swedish movie.
Oh God.
Where
Midsommar.
Midsommar.
Oh my God.
So So the old
Ugh.
people went up to the cliff and then threw themselves over the side of the cliff, and then landed, and their faces were all like, smashed in, and their bodies were all mangled, because they were old and it was time to die. So they just like killed themselves, even though they were like probably only like 50 and totally vibrant.
Well, they looked a little older than that, but they were still like, it was like their honor to do this.
It was this honor to sacrifice themselves. And so this kind of language seems to be trending in general, and then juxtapose that with the fact that we're in Mental Health Awareness Month to even make suicide even more normalized in a way, but in a horrific way, which we're going to show you a headline about.
So there's another thing that we saw. And let me bring this up bigger.
So the New York Post is student killed him about his vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
So
here,
that's
let me
not
go
the
over
right.
No. It's just that this is in the way.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
ads.
Ads got in the way. So the student killed himself after bullying about his vaccination status. So the story went that a student killed himself because he was being bullied so hard about not being vaccinated. Well, it turned out he actually was vaccinated, and that he ended up killing himself because of the bullying. And so that that instead of actually tackling the real issue, which is the fact that bullying in schools is still happening, and a lot of times bullying in schools, especially now in the age of COVID, is coming from the teachers and the administrators. So instead of really focusing on that, instead they're saying this kid had a mental illness,
or just that he killed himself because of the bullying, and allegedly and you probably already said this, that he was allegedly already vaxxed, but they were bullying him about not being vaxxed,
even though he was
and so there's this weird kind of jujitsu in the narrative as well. But I think when Julie was telling me about the story, I was like, but I think this also plays into the idea of like authentication. And we've been seeing, and you probably have too, where like no matter what you do, you have to get some sort of like text or email to authenticate the account that you're trying to get into. It used to be like your bank. And before that, it wasn't even your bank. It was just whatever. It didn't even exist. Then it was like banks. And then it was like, we have to do it for our MailChimp account for when we do our newsletters. It's ridiculous. It's like, really? I have to do an authentication to get into my MailChimp. Okay. And now it's like, the other day I was trying to get into the Home Depot app on my phone, and because I whatever, I needed some stuff for the garden, and it made me do that for that as well.
So everything that you need to do in life, most things that you need to do in life, they need to send you a message to your phone and authenticate you. So this is to get you used to your digital biometric data
and digital ID.
And a lot of people that still file their taxes or have chosen to file their taxes online have to have an ID, special ID, like an infrared scan of your face.
We've both had to do that because we had to interact with the federal government in some way or another, and they have this thing called ID Me, and you have to use your phone, and it's like it's this whole thing where they do like you said, your biometrics, they infrared scan your eyes and all that. And it was weird because when I did it on my phone, they told me to take off my glasses, and the image that I saw was like it was like points on my on my face. And
they're tracking your ID. I mean, and all of this we talked about in our video essays, a couple of years ago, where we went into great detail about the level of identity marks that they will have on your whole body, even down to the way you move. But back to mental health month,
well, I guess,
which is where we are.
I wanted to bring up the authentication because we can come back to this, because I think that this is really kind of part of the overall trend is that we're being tracked and traced, but we're also being like financialized and manipulated through things like Mental Health Week or Mental Health Awareness Month.
This is Blue Sky.
This is Blue Sky. You know what? We can come back to this. Let's finish out the idea of
So there's, the whole idea with Mental Health Awareness Month and the idea of suicide is that they're really trying to romanticize it. Mm-hmm. So not only do they want to romanticize you to be the hero, to check in on your friends who all probably have some form of mental illness, but then they want to also romanticize the idea of assisted suicide. So it's just this weird mixture of like, make sure that your friends aren't suicidal, but if they are, go ahead and assist them. Like what?
check on your friends. Make sure they're safe.
It doesn't make any sense though.
Unless they want to kill themselves, and then help them.
Then you can help them. Yeah. So it's really Mental Health Awareness Month is so insidious. It makes you crazy. Mm-hmm. Like all the language and all the headlines that come out during Mental Health Awareness Month will just drive you insane. And I guess that's the whole point, given what the month is. But just be wary of that. It's obviously a tool to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, did you get any of that free Narcan?
Well, I decided to forego my heroin addiction this month, so I don't need the Narcan.
Okay. All right.
So
okay, we'll pick that up next month.
Okay.
Yeah. Heroin addiction month.
Yeah. So anyway, did you want to go on to the Elon Musk purchasing Twitter and the real reason behind it?
I guess all that stuff? Yeah, because people have been talking about Elon Musk, and I don't think we were planning on talking about him, but I think this is a good transition, and I think we should talk about it. It's kind of an interesting, well, not so interesting topic. I think it's
no problem, Frida. Thanks for joining.
It's this conversation about Elon Musk has kind of gone, like jumped the shark, in my opinion. I'm kind of got tired of hearing about it.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And nobody even knows what that is or is talking about it. Nobody even talks about Dorsey's role in this, which is huge. Everybody just goes to the low hanging fruit.
Right. And so this is a company called Blue Sky. And so the reason that I brought this up, or I was thinking about this, is A, the Elon Musk thing, but also B, the story we're just talking about, how this authentication is going to become more important and come into play more, because, they talk about cyberbullying. Well, you can't cyberbully somebody if you're authenticated and you're, then they know who you are and what you're doing, and more surveillance on what's going on. And so, this is a double-edged sword. Well, probably, I think I don't know. I don't like the idea of authentication. I don't think that, why do we need to actually be authenticated in the first place? We're people, right? There's no need for authentication. We've been we are people. It's just, this idea that we need to be authenticated really just kind of pisses me off. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Sure, it pisses me off as well, but you also have to recognize the world that we live in. And right now we are all being authenticated at the mercy of rando algorithms, or random bots that, and formulas and codes and phrases that are put out there, so that even if you say happy birthday grandma, suddenly you're on a 30-day ban from Facebook or Twitter because there's a code out there that says, a combination of happy birthday grandma somehow makes you a domestic terrorist. So you need to go into the timeout corner for 30 days. So what Blue Sky is presenting is that you are more in control of the authentication process. They're trying to make it so that you're not at the mercy, from what I understand, if you really go into the technical aspect of this and if you understand tech, then this isn't as scary or as horrible as people might think. There's also that aspect of decentralization to it as well. Decentralizing platforms, which is so the reason we bring Elon Musk into this is because it was this company and this document, which Jack Dorsey, the original CEO of Twitter, is now sitting on the board of this company. This is the reason why he decided to move forward with the purchase of Twitter. And people totally, one of the reasons. But this is
Well, you were reading something interesting a moment ago to me about this whole thing, and
right. So yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought
No,
you
it's
had it up.
okay. I thought I had it up too.
Yeah.
But
Well, so I still feel like this is a problem that's been solved by the people who created the problem in the first place.
right.
This whole idea of self-authentication smacks of the original idea of requiring authentication
So
in the
the
first
reason
place.
Elon Musk invested in Twitter is because of the Blue Sky project. Blue Sky will be built on the framework created by the Cash App community called TBDEX, who was led by the former CEO of Twitter. That's Jack Dorsey. So the next phase of crypto is decentralized identity, or DIDs, which is, your digital identity. So some people are going to look at that and go, yeah, sure, no problem. That's great. Other people are going to look at it and go screaming with their hair on fire, like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever. So I think it really just depends on your worldview. It depends on how you feel about these things. If you feel that it's really going to disrupt your free speech or whatever.
Yeah.
And also the whole thing with free speech is just a distraction from the Blue Sky project.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that it's Blue Sky and the people who are authenticated are blue checked.
Right.
It's just coincidence.
Well,
folks.
I mean, so you have a problem with, in general, the authentication process. Like, why do you have to authenticate? Well, and I don't so much have a problem with that, because I know that there are, bots and spam bots and algorithms out there that I recognize the world we live in, and we're sort of at the mercy of them. What I can't stand is the hierarchy structure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think blue checks should exist at all.
Right.
I don't think whether you have, 600 followers and every single follower that you're attached to or that follows you has blue checks on them, so that makes it so that you can get a blue check, or whether you have 600 million followers and you have a blue check just because of the sheer amount of followers that you have. I don't think any of that should. I think everybody with a blue check or with a verified check by their name, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, I think they need to just be normalized. Like, we all need to be equal, and we all need to be the same on the platforms.
More horizontal in its organization.
Yeah. So, and since you now have a free market thinking libertarian as the CEO of Twitter, you might see more of that. Either you're going to up the credentials of people that you would never think in a million years, like myself, that would be credentialized or get a blue check or be verified. Or, because I don't think you're going to take away the blue checks. So what you're going to have to do is lift everybody up. You're going to have to, like,
well,
if you're a free market libertarian,
so how are you going to deal with that? Like, you still can't have, you're one better than somebody else.
Well, I think everybody's either going to have to be verified, like everybody.
And now everybody has a blue check.
Right. Basically, or
well, then you get rid of the visual. Right.
Exactly.
I mean, you'd have to get rid of the visual to, like,
And I think it's going to be a process. I don't think it's going to happen, all at once. It's not going to be like suddenly you log into your social media posts and suddenly you're a verified individual. I think it's just going to be a process, kind of like the return of the band. There's this whole, there's this trending story going out around that all these people that were banned off of Twitter have returned from the dead. And, and they're claiming it's because of Elon Musk. So all these people are saying, thank you, Elon. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Musk, for, for bringing us back. But it's really, it's not that at all. It's an introduction into the Blue Sky project, which is self-authentication, getting rid of this, hierarchical, unequal structure. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, the fact that Elon Musk, it's said that he went with this because of the self-authentication.
I mean, that's the rumor.
That's the rumor. That's what I'm saying. But, I'm sure that was released and allowed to get out there. Just still kind of makes me a little itchy twitchy. I mean, we all know who this man really is. And, he may claim
CIA.
to be exactly. He's a persona.
He's not really a real, like, I don't.
He's playing somebody on TV, basically. Whoever he is playing Elon Musk on TV.
And people say something about emerald mines.
What's that?
I don't that he grew up in it like
that
in
his,
an emerald mine,
right?
or
His
something.
parents, his father, like was whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't care
It's
about
time
that
for a
stuff.
haircut. Oh my god.
Yeah, I guess it
Sorry.
is. Wow. I got my haircut a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, all of a sudden, it's about hair. It's Hair Product Awareness Month.
I don't think he was, grew up in an emerald mine. I don't believe any of that garbage. That's so stupid. Like anybody who would believe that is just no.
I have diamonds on the soles of my shoes.
He's like Bezos. He was like former. What was Bezos like? Former
CIA,
like a CIA operative. He didn't build Amazon in a garage. Like none of that is true. Like this whole
Amazon
business.
I know. Remember that photo we found? It was like
he
started Amazon in his garage, and Amazon.com is spray painted on the side of the wall. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, all these people, Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg, they're all just affiliated with the Department of Defense or, the Department of Homeland Security or the CIA. They're just, operatives.
Yeah.
And, and they get to be the actor that plays, the cool libertarian or the, the self-starter or
right.
the rebellious college kid.
Right.
They get to play the character that fits that persona.
I'm waiting for the Bezos.
They drew the short straw.
Right. I'm waiting for the Bezos and the Musk movie to come out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Pretty, because they already had the Zuck movie with the Social Network, and then they already had the Assange. Well, I don't want to talk about Julian Assange.
Well, they had a movie about Julian Assange.
A couple of movies about him.
Yeah, and
then they had your guy Steve Jobs.
Right.
They had a couple of movies about him as well.
Yeah.
So any day now they should be doing the Bezos Elon Musk movie. And really, literally, you guys, all it is they just drew the short straw. That's it. They had like a team meeting. The CIA department got together. They all had a team meeting.
It was the short straw or the long one? It's like, now you get to be,
right.
Now you get to go be Playboy.
Right. You get to be the guy that everybody pays attention to in the media. So.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a big bummer.
So we so speaking of propaganda and disinformation and fake stories.
Oh, yeah.
Should we play it?
Yeah, let's see here. We've got some videos here.
Somebody said something. I want to see what the chat said.
Okay, hang on. Let me go back to the chat here.
When do we get to the part of the movie where the CIA guys get stopped? Yeah, I'm not sure that's ever really going to happen. They haven't been stopped yet. So
no.
It's probably never going to happen. I think the best way to counteract anything in life, whether it's, the CIA or somebody you don't like bugging you, just ignore them. Just don't give them any supply.
Any supply, because, they're all fucking narcs, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, narcissists.
Right.
Okay, so, okay, guys, try not to
gag.
Try not to throw up in your mouth.
Wandering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain. They're laundering disinfo and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious.
So you know what? So that's Nina Jankowicz. Did you want to bring up her Twitter page just so that people know who she is?
Yeah.
She's the new disinformation czar. So basically, she is the director of the Disinformation Governance Board. She's there to make sure that there's no, disinformation. Right. So there's a couple of things that we need to say about this.
So this comes back to the authentication too,
right?
But go on. Yeah.
Well, first of all, when I did a little more digging into what her role really is, the Department of Homeland Security could give could care less about what JP and Julie on Book of Hours are yakking about.
Right.
They don't really my hair. It's like even worse. It's like getting messier.
Oh my God, Julie.
It's getting messier just by sitting here. Like
it's the rain.
Okay. So it's like sticking up in the back. And anyway, so they could care less about what we're saying. The real reason that they have a disinformation governance board is because of the alleged Russia disinformation that's out there or something. And it doesn't even really have to do with anything else. I mean, I'm sure it could bleed into that, and people are very afraid, but mostly it has to do with what they consider would be, Russian disinformation. And then also it has to do with the US-Mexico border. If you really go into the weeds of this thing, they're concerned about people telling, stories to convince people to unlawfully cross the border. So like mules or
coyotes.
Coyotes, right. Yeah. So they're really, they want to make sure that that they're concerned about entrapment. They're concerned about people being, leaving another country like Mexico and coming over to the United States and maybe being funneled into sex trafficking or human trafficking. I mean, that's pretty much their focus.
I think that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. And
that's really the nuts and bolts of it.
But they I think that they had to get named this in order to get funded.
Right.
They had to have something sexy to make it,
something terrifying
and easy to sell to, whoever, had to approve it. Right.
Right.
Oh, well, let's go after disinformation. Let's call it disinformation really when it's about trafficking, human trafficking or whatever.
And it's also about the Russian narrative too.
Yeah. The Russian narrative
and
too.
The Russia, and which of course, because,
Russia.
Right. Because that's the latest country du jour that we're supposed to hate.
Right, exactly. So we'll get that 2 minutes in a moment. But so there, when somebody mentioned it to us at first, I was like, oh shit, man.
Right. So at first we were afraid, and then we were like, wait a minute, let's look into this a little bit more. And sure enough, they're really focusing on those two things we mentioned.
Yeah.
Now regarding her singing, that is pure theater. I couldn't find it, but I can guarantee that I must have seen her in an off production of Mary Poppins somewhere. Like you don't develop those singing skills without, being trained in some way. And the way that she performed, I mean, she's a performer. She's not her CV and her LinkedIn page says that she wrote a book about disinformation and all this stuff, but really she's a performer. What I mean? I think comes out of a theater.
Yeah,
theater.
I think that she's the equivalent of AOC.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go with this.
Yeah, like AOC dancing in that video,
right? Dancing to Listomania,
right? Exactly.
From the band Phoenix back in 2015 or 2014 when that whole
2004
was it 2004?
Something like that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. So if you don't remember, that's the story about how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came into the public realm is because she was in a video
for Boston. It was like a promo video for Boston University.
Right. It was a promo video for the school that she was going to. And she was dancing, in this video. And the song is called Listomania. And the band that was singing is Phoenix. So what a lot of people don't understand, just as a side note regarding that, is that I'm not sure what was going on, but there were anywhere between 15 and 20 different videos that were made across the world where they had groups of students or groups of people within a certain age demographic or a certain demographic or age group performing, and they all performed in the same way.
Yeah. So that was a precursor to the COVID dancing.
Exactly. So this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it went viral. So it started out as, you know, something simple, and then somebody else from another city said, hey, let's do the same thing, and it caught on and it went viral. So
So you think this
so
is part of that?
Singapore did it, San Francisco did it, Dallas did it, Boston did it, all over the place. Like if you go to YouTube and you just type in Listomania or Phoenix, you will see like this viral thread of all these different cities that did this song with different performers, and it just so happened that AOC was in the Boston one. And so that was her claim to fame. And so when I saw this new disinformation czar, Nina Yankowicz, singing, you know, Mary Poppins style, I thought of AOC. I thought of, okay, this is a performance.
Mm-hmm.
This is a standout, you know, performance to get us to remember her.
And since when do we have a person who's in a bureaucratic position, right, leading a particular, you know, branch of a particular you know, department of something in the US, go out and do this kind of video? I mean, you know, maybe, you know, Obama did some shit like that, but not quite as smarmy as that. But, you know, like this is really weird. It's you know, it shows you how much corporate influence there is in the government.
Right. Well, and also how much entertainment. So
Yeah.
I really feel that like the entertainment industry, like the theatrical industry and you know, CGI and you know, image makers and producers and directors, and you know, are now part of the political experience.
Yeah.
If you've never like performed, or if you've never been in theater, then you might not understand. But all I see, like every political influential person that I see on camera, whether it's somebody in the media or whether it's somebody, you know, whether it's a head of state, even, you know, everybody, I just look at them and go, okay, so they're playing the role. They were given a script probably a couple of days ago. They memorized their script and now they're performing. I don't see any authenticity. It's gone.
Right.
Like your whole democracy is gone.
Right.
Like it's all theater. Like everything is theater.
Okay, so you know, this is where we get into the aesthetics of propaganda. You know, where you know it's clear that she worked really hard on that.
Right.
You know, I could see her like looking at the lines a little bit, but she had to memorize that and she had to rehearse that extremely well. You know, to the point where she could do that. You know, you'll notice she's in her office, you know, and it's like, you know, she's got the mundane thing. It's almost as if she's on a Zoom call, right? Or a Teams call or something like that.
Everything's about performance.
And so it's this performance within the context of her office, but she's not in an official looking office either. She doesn't look like she's in a governmental office. It looks like she's in her home office. Right. With
the blinds behind her. And
right. Exactly. So this is this weird sort of like, I haven't analyzed it enough to go into it, but it's just those points are important to look at and to consider. But something else we discovered regarding the aesthetics of propaganda is this video.
Jamie, you asked this question. What do you think of what you've heard?
Well, I agree with what Mims was saying, to be honest, in general. I think what it shows that by Boris Johnson breaking the rules was that they were absurd in the first place, and that we should never have gone into lockdown. And that it was the biggest mistake, I think, that the government has made, because we now have a mental health crisis, we now have children who have to catch up on their lost learning, and we have NHS backlogs of over 6 million people, and we have cancer patients who can't get seen, who died during lockdown. No one's...
Okay, so I want to bring that back so that we're on the side and we can capture...
I can't really do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're... You know, the young man is saying what we've all been saying, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're not looking at it in terms of the content. The content. We're looking at it in terms of the propaganda and the delivery. We're looking at it in terms of people who have a background in design and have a background in theater. You notice that, first of all, he's the only person in his age demographic that is sitting in the audience. You notice that he's wearing a black t-shirt. I wish we could is there a way to bring him back and push stop and then...
Not really.
Jamie, you asked this question. What do you think of what you've heard?
Well, I agree with what Mims was saying, to be honest, in general. I think what it shows that by Boris Johnson breaking the rules was that they were absurd in the first place.
Okay, stop. Oh.
Okay, yeah, I can't. No, I can't.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Okay.
show both.
right,
I would have
so-
had to take a screenshot and
I
and
see.
then put it in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you notice, he's the only one in his age demographic. He's wearing a black T-shirt. Everybody else looks kind of frumpy and sort of outdated.
Right.
He's set aside. He's set apart a little bit in the
Mhm.
audience so that you can see him better, so that you have a clear shot of him. Anything else you want to add
Well,
to this?
Yeah, that he that the women behind or to the side of him behind him are showing their exasperation and sort of like feigned outrage or self-righteousness or something, because they're like, oh my god, I can't. And then they cut to the people who are behind the desks, who are the broadcasters, and they're like,
Right. So
I
this
can't believe
whole
he's saying
segment,
this.
this whole segment, everybody got a little script,
Mhm.
and the announcers were told, okay, when he says the word lockdown, you need to act upset and show your frustration with this, and so those are that's your cue, you people who are sitting there at the desk. Now you people who we hired to bring in to sit behind him, when he says the word death, or when he says big mistake, you need to act all upset. So that's your cue. This is all staged.
Mhm.
This whole thing was
Yeah.
staged. What's the point of the staging?
Well, I think that basically my takeaway, the first takeaway that I had, was that this is the state through its mouthpiece, the BBC, walking back the CVD narrative,
Mhm.
and also basically saying, oh, we didn't do anything. We didn't lockdown. What is that? We didn't.
No, I actually think it's well, I agree with what you're saying.
Mhm.
Like, I agree with everything you just said, but I also think that the reason that they put that particular person to be the spokesperson for the walking back of the narrative,
Mhm.
I mean, why not a middle-aged teacher that everybody can sort of relate to? Why did it have to be an attractive young black T-shirt, rebellious? And you notice that at the end of his statement, he was told to do something, make a gesture to really let your statement land. What will your gesture be? And for him, he crossed his arms, like, here's my point, here's my statement, and I'm going to punctuate it with crossed
Right, and that
arms.
means I'm not listening.
And that means I'm not listening, and I'm done.
Mhm.
I'm done with this.
Right.
So that gesture, his demographic, his age, the way he looks, he's fit, he's wearing a black T-shirt, they set him apart. That is a message towards like college age kids, towards kids that are maybe just graduating from high school. That's a message for the young adults out there, that are healthy right now.
Yeah.
That you're the healthy ones. They want somebody that they can relate to.
Right.
If it was a middle-aged teacher or a grandpa type person, it wouldn't have landed with the demographic that they were trying to reach.
Right. Well, I think also they always use young people for advertising and for getting a message out, because it's about vitality.
Mhm.
and making sure that even if the product isn't for young people, oftentimes you'll see products for older people who the product is for much older people than who are in the ad, right?
Right.
And when they do have a retirement oriented commercial, the people are always like youngish looking. They may have gray hair but they're always like sexy and kind of well cut,
attractive
and all that, right? Because it sells better. And in this case, the young, rebellious, good looking guy, it's about vitality, and it's about again, it's walking it back, but it's also trying to be like, well, we relate to you. We understand now, that this was probably a bad thing. And, what lockdown? I think we should watch it again real quick.
Yeah. So with everything that we just said, explaining the theater behind this, these people were given scripts. They were told to behave a certain way when when he said a certain statement. So that was their cue to either act exasperated or shocked or upset.
Yeah.
And then they told him, we need you to punctuate your statement with a gesture, and make it something that lands. And so he crossed his arms. So let's watch the whole thing again with the through the lens of everything that we have just told you.
Okay.
Jamie, you asked this question. What do you think of what you've heard?
Well, I agree with what Mims was saying, to be honest, in general. I think what it shows that by Boris Johnson breaking the rules was that they were absurd in the first place, and that we should never have gone into lockdown. And that it was the biggest mistake, I think, that the government has made, because we now have a mental health crisis, we now have children who have to catch up on their lost learning, and we have NHS backlogs of over 6 million people, and we have cancer patients who can't get seen, who died during lockdown. No one talks about that. Why are we not talking about the collateral damage from 2 years of lockdowns, which have destroyed the economy and which have caused the cost of living crisis that's happened today?
Okay.
Wow. Did you notice Nan next to him? Nan, Gran in her little babushka scarf.
I know, this is so over the top, guys. Like, everything is so theatrical. What? I don't know any old ladies that walk around with babushkas on. Come on, give me a break.
I know, especially
what is it supposed to be? London? Come on, it's
right.
like a cosmopolitan city. Even your grandmother is like dressed pretty well.
I loved the broadcaster who was
especially
like,
for TV. Right, of course.
the
Now
gaping mouth.
Go ahead and feign your shock.
And then the guy who's just
yeah. So everybody's playing a part and reacting to a preordained script. And now
I don't even think these are actors. I think they're regular people who.
But they were given their cues.
They were given their cues.
Told,
no,
right.
they're not professional actors.
They're not professional actors, but they're given their. You kind of don't need to be a professional actor anymore. And I think that's another reason why Hollywood is acting so weird and is such a part of the political narrative now, and has moved into that realm because they know of their irrelevance now.
Right.
So juxtapose this very sort of slick presentation with this interaction with this young dude. Juxtapose that against the next theatrical presentation.
What you mean?
Of that will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys.
I present to you the leader of the United States of America.
I mean, this is worse than George H.W. Bush,
right?
Or even W.
So this is like what we had. What I found interesting was that this BBC clip was trending on Twitter. And then right behind it was this Joe Biden clip, which basically tells you that, you're being told, and you should all believe it anyway. So I guess you don't really need to be manipulated into thinking this, that the old guard, the old, bought out by the corporate industries, the old white male is no more.
That's his job.
It's time to go. It's time to make room for some young, hot, black t-shirt wearing, decisive, well-spoken, fresh blood. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
And hopefully ones that fit into your intersectionality. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And just, we've been sold this idea that Biden is Joe, like he's just lost his mind and then he's just a fucking idiot. And he is, but he's also, he's always played a part in the political theater. Back when he was a younger man and as a senator, he was the one that would sell the bad idea, and he would do it in a very rough and tumble way. He was a real prick. but he was always,
It's horrible.
he was always the guy that when he was on the campaign trail or wherever, he would always make the verbal gaffes too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just playing that part that he's always been assigned since he's started. And I mean, what he introduced the crime bill. Didn't he have something to do with the crime bill? Right. So he's been a fascist since the very beginning. And this kind of like, yeah, we're gonna seize their assets. Nudge, get it? What I'm saying? Hey, get it?
We're gonna take their yachts, and
we're gonna take their yachts.
I'm gonna pretend that I cannot pronounce kleptocracy.
Right. Exactly.
It's just.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to make you go, okay, we're done with the old, tired, addled guard, and we want fresh meat. We want fresh, intelligent voices to lead our Western democracies.
This is the decline of the United States as we know it.
Basically,
and we know that it will be broken up and gone and just like scattered into compacts. But as we've said, and somebody else reiterated that to us because of another commentator, but this is the beginning of the end. I thought Trump was actually going to be the last president.
Well,
but
no, he was. No, I mean officially he was. But he really truly was. Yeah. I mean, he was.
I still think he was put in place.
Well, I happen to think that he legitimately won, and that they caved. That so many people voted for him that they could not defraud the American voting public the way that they defrauded them with Biden.
Well, he also played along, I think, but
and of course he played along. Right. Of course he had much to gain and much to benefit from especially with the whole warp speed and all that stuff. But so you do need to understand that with, you want to bring up the chat, with the with all of this theater comes the understanding that everything's done. It's really over. March 13th of 2020 is when it officially ended, when the national emergency was declared for the United States. I don't know about what's going on in other countries. I live in the United States, so I can tell you with certainty that it's over as of March 13th of 2020. As long as you continue to live under an emergency authorization, then the sky is the limit on further dismantling and further fuckery. So you just have to accept that it's over and, live your day. Like, there are times when we live our day, minute by minute. Like, we don't even know what's going to happen, in the next hour, let alone the next year, let alone the next month. So you have to live your life day by day. And as long as you can take care of yourself and as long as you're surviving, then that's good.
Well, as I was saying to somebody earlier, maybe yesterday or today, I don't remember. You have to be here now, and that's not just a tossed off little phrase. I mean, it's a truism, and especially now in this age of the CBD, right? It's just it's
well, and also when that things are over, when your life is a never-ending supply of outrageous stories. So at first it was a deadly pathogen, and then it was a safe medical intervention, and then it was a global warming, and then it was racism, and so it's just this constant never-ending cycle of outrage that is supposed to pull your energy away from yourself and taking care of yourself.
Right.
And it's meant to exhaust you, and it's meant to deplete you so that you don't have the reserves to survive this. That's what happens when, well, think of a relationship. Like, when a relationship ends, all of a sudden there's a lot of drama and chaos, right? If you're in a marriage or you're in a relationship, you notice that before it finally ends, or as it's ending, and as the person is exiting your life, there's all sorts of distractions and drama to keep you from to keep you focused on the fact that, you know, this union is ending, and that union may somehow benefit you. The union that you had with your government or your country has always benefited you somehow, you know, this idea of freedom and blah, 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 whatever. So that's ending, you know, so they don't want you to know that, and they create lots of stories.
I liked what you said this morning when we were talking about this, how, you know, you were saying, you know, when a narcissist or a psychopath leaves you, you don't get that closure that you would normally expect.
Right. You're never going to get the closure. No one's ever going to go to jail. I know that there's like attorneys and the whole Reiner Fulmich thing and Tom Renz and all that, but you're dealing with psychopaths and narcissists. And although it's rewarding to see people making statements and, you know, indicting these individuals in the court of public opinion, right? We have shared plenty of the commentary that's coming out of the Reiner Fulmich team. We've shared it on our own platform.
Or Naomi Wolf.
Naomi Wolf. We fully back, you know, the idea that there are people coming out that are, you know, sort of indicting these people, but not in any real way. You have to understand, because like he just said, what I said before earlier while I was, you know, making French toast, that, you know, narcissists don't, you never get closure with narcissists and psychopaths. You just don't. You're not gonna see people hauled off to jail in handcuffs or, you know, things like that. And you can speculate till the cows come home, like where Fauci is, but he's doing fine, you know. They're not going to pay the price that they should.
No, they're not. And you're never going to be able to touch Fauci. Ever,
right,
you know?
right. And you're never, ever going to get that kind of closure that you deserve. You totally deserve to have that closure and see these criminals brought to justice, but it's not going to happen. What you will get closure with is if you do the little things like, oh, I don't know, print out some stickers. And if you see this whole bullshit coming back with, you know, masks are required to come get a burger, you can slap the sticker over the sign that says, fuck your mask.
Yeah.
You know, you can get closure in personal ways. You know, you can go to your state rep, like our friend Stacey Adams here in Allegheny County goes to the state rep and says, you know, these huge money-making schemes that are meant to really torture and humiliate children at school with the continuing of the testing and all that up the nose and all that. That it's like really bad, and and here's all the proof, and who's making money at it. So you can go, you can get that attainable closure that you need by just reaching people who are a little bit closer to you, rather than waiting for Fauci, who is totally untouchable and never reachable, waiting for him to see justice.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make that justice for yourself.
Speaking of all that, like finding your own closure, it's like, you know, you were talking earlier about how, you know, more people need to be laughing about this crap. And we need to have, you know, more fun and more jest around this whole thing.
I know.
You know, at the beginning of this, you know, you reminded me at the beginning of all this, some kids that we follow here in Pittsburgh, these anarchists, they're like, what are you worried about with the mask? If you have to go into the grocery store, just steal stuff.
Right. You know, and a lot of people,
if your identity is, you know, covered.
Right.
Steal shit.
And, you know, so they had a really sort of cavalier response to it. And a lot of people, you know, are upset because you've got individuals who've taken that to the next level, especially in San Francisco, and they're going into these, you know, they're going into Walgreens or CVS and they're taking $900 worth of product. And, you know, my response to that is, if you didn't want there to be a rise of theft in these stores, then you should have never done the bullshit in the first place. You should have never done it in the first place. And I'm all for people taking care of themselves, you know, and I'm just, you know, so you know,
in that context, I
those
guess, you know,
those sort of liberal type anarchists, they're not real anarchists because they believe in the shot and all that, and they kind of fall a little bit too hard for the id pol garbage.
Right.
But they did say, Jules, You know, what are you complaining for about the mask? Just throw your mask on and go steal some wine. So maybe I did, you know?
Maybe
I did. So, you know, if you didn't want this type of behavior, then you shouldn't have caused the problem in the first place.
Right.
Is my reaction to that, my response to that. Another thing too that we found really funny was this was witnessed by my neighbor who lives across the street from me. She said this was in March of 2020. Like,
well, or April or May.
March or April
when
of
the
20
masks started coming.
When the
up.
masks started coming, suddenly she said she saw a bunch of kids in our neighborhood with the old medieval mask with the nose, the crow, like the old medical mask.
Yeah.
That they had. I wish we had a picture of it.
I know.
Where it looks like a crow and it's the long nose, and
Mhm.
it was for what did they?
Well, what they did was they believed that, you know, it could keep whatever was out there from getting into their nose, and they would actually put analgesic like lavender,
right, or some kind of
inside of it to keep it from you know, and that's actually a wise thing. I mean, if you're trying to prevent like bacteria or whatever, you know, antibacterial kind of substance in there.
So I thought that was hilarious. You know, people around here in these parts were treating it kind of like a joke.
Well, and then soon after, like maybe we did our reset video.
We did the hard reset.
The hard reset video. We went back to that same park, and
this was the first time.
Was that the same
first time?
Was that the same visit?
I think so.
Well,
Wasn't
anyway,
it? Or maybe it was the second time.
Yeah, I think it was. It was
Maybe
around that same time, but you know, it was maybe a week or two later. We went back to the park while we could, because we just really felt like we needed to be outside, and spring was starting to come around. You know. But we saw these guys in the Mexican wrestling mask. What is it called? Something lucha. I forget the term, the Spanish term. But these guys were in these wrestling masks, and taking photos of each other and in the park.
They were making a joke out of it too. Like for a while there, like everybody, and I think in some ways, you know, and our friend here who we, you know, go out to dinner with sometimes, and who we see occasionally, and who our friend from Chicago met, she just about everything that is COVID related or some sort of protocol or masking or whatever, she always giggles. Have you noticed that about her? She's always giggling.
Yeah, so it's either nervous laughter or she's just like,
she thinks this whole thing is so dumb and so ridiculous. And that's how we need to get our sense of humor back. And recently I tweeted that we're all going to have to develop a much sharper, all of you users out there on social media are going to have to develop a stronger, you know, sense of humor on your platforms, you know?
And, wow, I just totally lost my train of thought. I thought what distracted me was you said users, and I was thinking, wow, you know what else they apply the word user to? Drug addicts.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's true. They do.
So social media is kind of a well, it is addictive, right?
I mean, you've got the creators of social media on record, and I made a video about it saying that it is, you know, like doing bumps of cocaine. It is like getting little dopamine hits. I mean, that is what social media is. And, you know, so yeah, you are a user. I mean, I can't, you know, don't shoot the messenger. I mean, this is just a tech term, you know?
Yeah.
So
no, I'm just joking about that. But, you know, it's just, you got to have some, you know, you've got to laugh about this stuff. I think, okay, the point I was going to make was, you know, I think we all need to like start reacting less about, you know, like we used to get really upset about the masks, and I still get like freaked out by seeing people with, you know, and I basically more now, it's not freak out more as
just
much as
annoyance.
Like just annoyance, and I roll my eyes, right? But I think we need to be more like, we don't have to like respect them, and we don't have to, you know, be nice to them about it, but we don't have to attack them either, but we can laugh at them behind their back.
Yeah,
we're allowed to do that.
We can make fun of them.
You know,
sure.
You know, I would love it if we could put a kick me. You know,
did we go live on Rockman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
did we ever go live?
We never did.
Okay.
Wow. Oh, Julie. Wow.
Yeah. So we never did. Sorry, Rockman.
Sorry, Rockman.
So we're like saying hi to Rockman.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they, you know, they'll collect everything, but I don't know.
You think they're going to collect it from the beginning?
Well, if they don't,
I know we're having this technical conversation over here. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I had a lot of tabs up too because we were sharing all these videos and photos and stuff. So if it's just picking up at this point, then I'll just upload the video.
Yeah, we'll just upload the whole thing.
So anyway, sorry, Rockfin. But the whole point is it's like, I'd love it if I could put a kick me sign on their backs as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. That'd be awesome. You probably could. So
they're too distracted with their mask. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to one of our favorite people.
Oh yeah. So a friend of ours recently contacted us and told us that she went somewhere really cool. And this is our friend Judith Turner. And she's with Dr. Christian Northrup here.
Exactly.
And what they did was they went to the and I've got the wrong thing here. Yeah, this was called the
what's it called? It was called some
I had the name of it, but it went away.
The tour.
The tour was the Adopt a no, it was what was it called? Save a Generation.
Save a Generation tour.
Right. The Save a Generation tour. And so this is Judith. Oh, it's not showing. That's weird.
Well, can you bring it back?
Oh yeah. So let me share. Sorry, we were talking about this thing.
I think it was showing.
No, we were just looking at it.
Oh, okay.
We were looking at it, but nobody else was. See, this is how awesome we are right now.
There it is. It's right here.
Yeah.
It's right there.
There it is.
Right.
Okay, there we go. Now you can see it. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's our friend Judith in the black jacket, and then that's Dr. Christian Northrup.
Judith helped us with producing a video called
Co-optation.
Co-optation, yeah. And it's about co-ops and but anyway, she heard about the tour, the Save a Generation tour that Kevin Jenkins was going to be on, and Christian Northrup
And
from our Carrie from our interview with Dr. Northrup, and she said she got a chance to talk to Kevin Jenkins and his wife, who we've never met.
Right.
But they're moving to Tampa.
Right.
Florida,
well, everybody's moving to Florida, I think, at this point. Right.
And so that's kind of cool. But something else that came up, she also sent along with that photo, she sent us an email. So for those of you who need some inspiration and are too busy, listen to this. So she wrote us an email and said, so far I put up a 70 feet of fence with a door.
Do you want me to read it?
No, I can do it. I mean, I can read, Julie. And I saw the photo. It was like a wood, like a wooden fence.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's
tall.
tall.
It's like a big,
fence. Like 6 feet tall. Built and installed an 18-foot gate and remote opening system.
With a remote opening system.
Yeah. Laid 35 feet of concrete. Built a small but awesome tool shed and one garden shed. So both are pretty awesome, I would imagine. Planted 4 fruit trees and an herb garden. And I want to show the herb garden. Let me share that.
It's coming up.
All little gardens. They start out small, but this is going to be huge. These things are going to be huge. Like this is basil here, it looks like, and these are going to be, big in about 2 months. You know? So so that's pretty cool. Let's see, what else did she say? And she's going to start building raised beds out of cinder blocks. She said she was going to go get 100 cinder blocks to build these raised beds.
Can you imagine?
That is so heavy. I couldn't even imagine doing that here. I mean, I built ours out of wood, but she's in Florida. But here, this is a wooden one, right?
Right.
But
and ours are on the ground.
But and then she's going to build a solar dehydrator.
Oh my God.
And I said to her, so what are you doing? So you got all this, what are you doing tomorrow?
So that takes care of Saturday.
Right. That's Saturday's activities. I wonder what's going to go on tomorrow. So congratulations, Judith.
Yeah. You are so inspiring.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how much she has accomplished.
Yeah.
And everything.
And you can find her on her Facebook page. Just look up. You can go to like Julie or me on Facebook and then find Judith Turner, and friend her. There were some other photos of her, her work on her page. So I just thought I'd show those two, though. That one, and she sent the one with Christiane Northrup in the email. So that was cool.
Yeah.
So it's the little community that we've kind of that we're kind of gathered around here, and we're really happy that our friends and followers are starting to connect with each other.
Yeah.
Not only on social media, but in other ways as well. And so that's the fact that Judith went to go see
Dr. Northrup.
Dr. Northrup and Kevin was really cool. And she lived not too far away from where that event was taking place.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. And Christiane Northrup, if you didn't see it, go back. She's not on YouTube. You can find it on Rockfin, and I think we have it on Rumble as well. But in that interview, she said she was going to do like 3 or 4 of those stops in that tour, only doing the northern part of Florida, because she didn't want to take the time to do the entire thing. She couldn't.
Right.
She wasn't able to. And
I
think she's still out on that tour right now, because we listened to the 5 docs the other day, and she wasn't part of the 5 docs.
Right.
Yeah, it was just 3 docs, because 2 of the docs were in that tour.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wow, I think I've run out of things to talk about, Julie.
Well, yeah. So we just wanted to thank Rockfin and thank our supporters on Patreon, and for those of you who have sent us messages in the mail, and I think one of the highlights, I think, of my week was we got to meet a friend through this platform called the internet, or this tool called the internet. We actually got to have a conversation with a friend in Estonia. And we can talk a little bit about Estonia. Yeah.
So
and what he's going through.
Tavet in Estonia, he had contacted us a while ago, and he wanted to talk to us. So we got a chance to have a little video chat last night, and it was interesting to hear what he had to say. I mean, do you want to go into some of the details, or?
Well, Estonia, it feels like it's just been completely absorbed by the entire 4IR concept.
So,
right?
And so Tallinn, the main city, the cultural center of this country, was the first to become the first smart city. I think it may not be the first smart city, but it is a smart city, and it was put into place by Nokia from the country just across
Finland.
Finland, just across the I think it's the not the Black Sea, the one of those seas, one of those 7 seas. Anyway, and it's he said that 5G is now being rolled out throughout the entire country, and and he said it's mounted on the light posts, and he also was talking about how Estonia is known for its forests, and that the billionaires and millionaires are basically grabbing them up as private property, even though they may have been the Baltic Sea, right?
Is it? This is the Gulf of Finland.
Oh, yeah, it's the Baltic Sea, I think.
Is it the Baltic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, when we were in Stockholm, we were staying just outside of, like, the Baltic Sea was just like, steps away from us.
Right.
Which was weird. I hadn't even thought of that. It looked like a river, but anyway, so he was saying that they're grabbing up public property as well as buying up the private property, and so these forests are now they're no longer available to the general public the way they used to be. And so he was lamenting that it's a small country that nobody really knows about, and he reckons he thinks that it's because of that status that and where it's located, that it was ripe pickings for 4IR and the things that they're doing there right now. And I remember us hearing I hate to mention their name, but a TruthStream video about Tallinn.
They were talking about Estonia a while ago.
Yeah, as
they
being
did
a smart
like
city.
a really short little thing about it.
Yeah, and we don't really follow them much. Their content is a little reactionary, even though in this case it was informative and let us know that that's what was going on.
And then didn't Talbot say that something about Bill Gates had just incorporated like every aspect of Estonia?
So I think that he's a big investor in maybe what's taking place there. I can't remember exactly how he put that or what it was, but the other thing too is that Nokia was either bought outright or invested in by Microsoft years ago, right around the time that smartphones were starting to come out. And Nokia was kind of like, getting shut out of the cell phone market.
I know what it was.
So how fortunate for them.
Bill Gates is an e-resident of Estonia.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
As of 2018, Bill Gates is an e-resident of Estonia.
Right. And so what Talbot was also saying is that, they're all going to be, there's an October deadline for getting a digital ID. As part of being in Estonia, so that gives you that e-resident status, right.
So you're an official,
and everybody's being supplied a smartphone. And he was talking about how Google and Apple had worked together or colluded to bring about a lot of these initiatives, and that everybody's going to get a cell phone. He made a funny comment about how Hitler gave everybody a free radio, and he's like, now I get a free smartphone. So
nice connection there.
Yeah, it was a good connection. I thought that was really interesting and funny and poignant and dark humor, gallows humor. And so it's really, we're seeing what we all fear in small pockets of the world. I think they're trying these things out in different places. And, and we've been seeing this for a long time. I mean, vaccinations, in Africa and India, exploitation and financialization of people in these countries in Africa, for instance, like through solar power sales and leasing. So that people can power their cell phones, and it's like this basically a scheme to just basically completely rip people off of money and give them something, but then cut it off so that they'll keep paying to keep that service.
Right.
And here in the U.S., we're going to be facing other things, and I'm sure that those of you in other countries are going to be facing yet other issues. As we've seen in Australia, the way the brutal behavior from the authorities and the police, is going on there. So I think that all these initiatives are being tried out in different places, and we're and the entire world population is being used as a giant vaccine trial. And so unfortunately it's the old people and the young and the vulnerable that are going to pay the price for this trial. It's no longer lab rats or rabbits or whatever. And and I'm completely against vivisection. I'm against all of this, and so I don't take it lightly. I don't think there should be animal testing, because there shouldn't be these kinds of pharmaceuticals in the first place. These pharmaceuticals have never really helped anybody. I feel like, okay, so here I am on my soapbox. I feel like, the idea that, that I think that cancer is basically, a Ponzi scam as well. I think that the people who created the problem are now cleaning up by selling us the solution, and oftentimes killing us in the process, right?
Yep.
And I'm not saying that cancer isn't real, but I think it's been caused. I don't think people just get it.
Right. Yeah. And I think what March 13th of 2020 showed us is, we got a sneak peek into allopathic medicine and the medical industry
and the tyranny that goes along with it,
and the tyranny and the lies that go along with it, and the theories that had sustained it for all of these years are theories that are based in othering, and they're based in superstition. And I'm talking about the germ theory, it's based in superstition. It really is. Whereas terrain theory is based in science. So,
yeah, or even like natural intuition.
Right, exactly. So I think that this whole experience has, really informed people about the development of these industries and how these industries and their development have shaped our economy and shaped our democracies, right? And so all of that is being exposed. And so there's this great shift, and it's really terrifying to go through the shift. We're going through something that is, some people are saying it's a spiritual shift. Some people are just chalking it up to being nothing but political. And
I think it's just more of what's been going on for the last 500 or more years, from the bourgeoisie class, or the moneyed classes, whether it was the merchant class from the Renaissance on, or the pre-Renaissance and on, merging with and then overtaking the royal classes, the royalty, telling people how to behave,
right?
From we're seeing this from like the Renaissance period of like once these merchant class business owners started telling people how to behave, whether it was moral behavior. It was basically their judgment on just normal people or peasants or just the people that they wanted to work for them. They started dictating how you behaved, and this whole idea of
morality
and work combining came out of that. It emerged out of
the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. And so we've been bossed around by these assholes ever since.
Right. And so you noticed it was the bourgeoisie that were telling us to put on a mask in order to buy eggs, or it was, it was your teacher, or it was your, some kind of instructor, or some kind of shop owner, or restaurant manager, or even your own boss that was telling you what to do with your body and telling you what to do. And so just to really double down on what he said, it's always the bourgeoisie that are the order followers that are going to go and tell the rest of us how to behave and what to do and what is and what isn't. And at this point, I'm a little sick of it.
Yeah.
And very few people, even now, 2 years after this thing, 2 years after almost 3 years now after the national emergency was declared, at least in the United States, very few people are addressing the class issue. This is class war. And so we feel that this is, it's an economic reset. And it's also, a way to reframe what it means to be a human being. But it's also, you see evidence of the class issue even from your very aware and sort of on the right side of history community. There are people out there that are really giving good information about what's going on with the market and what's going on with the tech aspect of this, but they're still not addressing that this is class war. And that's a little infuriating to me.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some of the people that are kind of poking around the edges are doing so in ways that I wouldn't expect or it's coming from people I wouldn't expect to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always done in a way that I would agree with in terms of like how they position their argument.
Right.
But it's starting to come out. And in the last 24 hours, in the last 12 hours, I've seen two perspectives through, media online. So you just played me that
Mm-hmm.
Renegade Inc. Program. And then you were talking about Steve Bannon and his war room.
Right.
And they were talking more or less about the same kinds of issues, but
Mm-hmm.
from different perspective.
Right. Right.
And so the one was more lefty and the other one was definitely more, well, I'd say libertarian.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And I think that too, people don't really understand what the libertarian free market ideology really is. There's a lot of people that really just don't understand it.
Mhm.
We're not of that thought
Yeah, we don't.
process. We don't really agree
We're not of
with
that tendency. Yeah.
We're not of that tendency at all. We don't really think that there is a free market.
No.
It's too easily co-opted by capitalism.
Yeah.
So,
by interests that
Right.
would rather, not have a free market if it's in their favor.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So they'll talk about a free market as long as they have the
Right.
advantage.
And that takes us to Elon Musk and his ideology.
Sure.
He's a free market libertarian, which is which inspires a lot of tech bros. How's that?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
But and a lot of people are on board with that, but we're very dubious of it. So I feel like there's more work to be done as far as learning about different options.
Mhm. I agree. And I think that there was another Renegade Inc. program that you were showing me, and it's an older one,
Mhm.
and it was about
Egalitarianism.
egalitarian societies.
Mhm.
And we're talking, small tribes of people in, like, say, Borneo or South America, and things like that. And the interesting thing that came out of the one thing that the guy said was, we're always given a narrative that, if we're left to our own devices, we'll be at each other's throats, like Lord of the Flies kind of scenarios, and
that's fiction.
and that's fiction, and that's it's something that we keep getting told is what's going to happen, whereas what he was pointing out was they were paradigmatically completely different in their outlook, in the way that they organized, the way that they were horizontally organized, they were the way that they lived with one another. It wasn't even like working together; it was living together without being in one house, right? They lived together in a small group. But he said, when you and these were of different tribes of people from different parts of the world who organized themselves these ways. He said, when you encounter them as a visitor, as an outsider, you feel a sense of love that you don't get anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel that, we're not going to immediately turn around and become these people. We can't. It's just not possible.
Right.
Even if everything gets taken away, it's still, we come from a technocratic or technologically oriented, I'm not even going to say advanced, I'm going to say oriented way of living. And that we're going to have to evolve into something that works within that context or a post context. We're just not going to be, hunter-gatherers in the rainforest,
No.
or on the, or in,
we need to be something,
but we're going to have to find our way to these places.
And we need to be something in between what we are now and those egalitarian societies in Borneo. Like, we need to be somewhere in between. We need to figure it out, because one thing that a popular doctor, I'm not going to mention her name, but a really popular doctor who was eviscerated in the mainstream, one thing that she said is, I think that the Western society has gotten so far away from that egalitarianism and that, helping one another, that you could throw a bunch of 6-year-olds into a burning building and nobody would give a shit. Like she's so frustrated and so downtrodden and has no hope that people are really going to get it. Dr. Naomi Wolf, who was deplatformed off of Twitter like that and hasn't been reinstated yet, which I find interesting, for asking a basic question, like a very basic question about, transmission of the COVID shot. Through her research and her team of experts discovered that there's been no official safety testing done on the shot for pregnant women or women who are lactating. None, zero. And so all of the pamphlets and all of the language around it being safe and effective is a lie. It's just an out and out lie. Like it's a complete lie. And so the going back to what that other, doctor said about when are we going to care, balance that against what we learned from Naomi Wolf, we have a real problem. We have a real problem. She mentioned a statistic that was outrageous. I don't know in what time span, but it was something like 8,000 miscarriages. And it's just unheard of.
Right.
So when are we going to care? Like it doesn't seem like people really are getting it.
Right. And along the lines of like what we were talking about in The Reason, how people have stopped asking questions in general, but questions about how people died. Because if you take that away, if you take that reason or that cause of death away, people are going to care less.
Right.
That's
true.
It's just there's that lack of empathy that gets promoted. The lack of empathy gets promoted.
I'm actually surprised to hear you say that, because for years you have said that, as a capitalist society, we've been programmed to be, consumers and to be completely self-involved. And that, the whole process of this narcissism that's become so normalized in our modern society is what's causing these people to not care. Like it's so much more important to make sure that, this friend of ours, this local friend of ours, gets his vacation when COVID is allegedly at its height, where he can take his family of 6 to a private island, than it is to stay and make sure his community is okay.
Yeah.
Like we have become so messed up in our, it's no wonder that this doctor said this really outlandish statement. Like, I don't think that Americans would care if you threw 10,000 6-year-olds into a building and set the building on fire. I think we would just all stand around and go, "Oh, okay."
News at 11.
I guess it needed to happen.
It would be on it would be on a CNN feed that would show up every 10 minutes or every 20 minutes, whatever the cycle is, and it would basically be, "Oh my God, that's horrible." Next news, weather and sports, and it would be, it would just be kind of wash over you after a while, because it is. There's a word for this. I'm not coming up with it. It's so removed from your life, and when it's repeated over and over and over again, you become immune to it. You become immune to it, and it just becomes wallpaper.
Right. So not only do we have the constant never-ending cycle of tragic news, which we've become immune to. Okay, there's that. I get that. But there's also, this really selfish, capitalist, consumerism that has created this bubble of this world that we live in. My mother is 20 years older than me, so she's in her early 70s, went back to school late in life and got her certification to be a naturopath. And is now managing, like, and is now like helping people, and she's finding more fulfillment later on in life, like helping people. People are coming into her shop and going, I have this, all of these health problems. I've had, all of my boosters. And so she's helping them get through their physical reactions to the boosters and their pain and whatever it is that they're experiencing. Their bodies are breaking down because of the poison. So she's, and she'll say things like, my own garden is being neglected, and my own, I need the things that I need to do to take care of myself are being neglected because I am giving so much of myself to the community at large. And so, I'd like to use that as an example. Like, unfortunately, you don't want to suffer for your community.
Right.
But
at the same time, you have to take care of yourself. And I think that, it comes back to something we were saying early on. And I was quoting Paul from Winter Oak, and it's like, a society or a group or whatever, a community is only as strong as the individuals within that community, right? And I think that we're getting these mixed messages, and we've been talking about this for a long time, the mixed messages. But you have this dichotomy and this confusing world that we're living in, where you have the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance of, you've got to take care of yourself, but you've also have to be part of the community. And, then we see people who are like saying, you have to wear a mask to, protect me, and you have to get a vaccine to protect me, going on long vacations that don't involve anyone else but their own family. And, another example that we were talking about in another broadcast, whether it was an audio or one of our bookmarks, where this couple we know from San Francisco were on vacation, like, what was it, a year ago, like last summer or something, or it was pretty recently, just within the last year, the last 12 months. We're on a tour, different countries, and they were so proud of themselves for attaining a bunch of rapid
antigen tests
for themselves, so that they could continue their travels without any interruptions. And yet they basically went and bought out the supply of a given store wherever it was they were. Now, I don't agree with
the tests themselves or why they needed
it's
to do
the very act itself is what we're talking about.
So a couple of well-off San Franciscans who take to get 6 month sabbaticals from their corporate jobs and go travel the world were going into poor communities, complaining about the poor communities that they were going into, like Morocco, areas of Morocco. And then they were bragging about how they were able to purchase and clean out a product that they needed so that they could continue their flight tour, because they had to take flights all over the world, and each flight required them to have testing, to test negative before they could get on the flight. So they wanted to make sure that they had all of the tests available to them. And so they were like, well, luckily we found in this really poor community in Morocco, luckily we found all of the tests that we needed. And I'm thinking to myself, what about the individuals who needed that test for their job so that they could test negative for their job and continue to work and earn an income,
as opposed to you continuing your journey,
as opposed to you continuing your
vacation,
your overpriced vacation, like your super privileged life. I mean, so that's the world we have created for ourselves. This this radical selfishness and this radical idea that, we have to take, we have to put ourselves first before anyone else. And Live Alive remembers me talking about that. I shamed the hell out of them, privately, but I did. I took screenshots and everything. And it was just like,
well, they stopped following us. So,
oh yeah, well, whatever. So, again, to go back to what that controversial statement that doctor made, which is, have people just stopped caring about, what's happening? There has been so much death and suicide. It was Steve Bannon who said, when I was listening to one of his talks, what was the statistic I gave you? 22 suicides a day.
Yeah, something like that.
We average in this country like 22 suicides a day.
Now, I would be interested in what the rate was, prior to the CVD.
Right.
But
well,
that's still a lot of fucking people.
Well, and that we had the highest rate of child suicide that we'd ever had in the history of this world
during the lockdowns.
So when are we going to get out of our own way? Like, when are we going to push our own ego aside? Now, does that mean that I don't want you to make your car payment or feed yourself? No, of course not.
No.
Like, take care of yourself, take care of your bills. Because like JP always says, part of a community, of a thriving community, is when you're strong,
Right.
So
the other thing too is, we recognize, and believe me, we do recognize that we live in the context of this type of society that we live in.
Right.
And that we have responsibilities that we have to address as, people who want to, continue living the way that we do. And I'm not talking about like over consumption, just basic living, right? And there's things that you have to do, and we all, unfortunately, we all have to have jobs to keep these things rolling. And we're shamed for not working, as if working for itself is the thing that we're supposed to be doing. And getting to that attitude, getting around that attitude, I think will help us move forward. But in the meantime, we do live in a world where we are being financialized through credit. We do live in a world where we are being exploited for our labor. We do live in a world where we're being exploited for what we think and do on social media. All this stuff is being used to sell it back to us in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This person is saying that was the stat of suicides for veterans way before. Well, I do remember look up child suicide rate. And you'll find there's even mainstream was covering it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I do remember also hearing about a high level of suicides with veterans as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we're going to all have to find our way, and we're all going to find how to work with each other. And we, like I said before, we're gonna just evolve into the next step, and hopefully we won't give in to the narratives that keep getting pushed on us through media and movies and stories and things, that we are a brutal people, and that we are going to tear each other apart, left to our own devices. We just saw a movie, the Northman, right? That was I feel was a we're just looking at comments. That was a false narrative of like the Viking culture, because Julie and I attended an exhibit in Chicago about, I don't know, what was it, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, something
like that. And it was about Vikings, and they were talking about how the Viking culture was, the Viking, the word Viking didn't refer to the people. It was a thing. It was a venture. And what it was more or less like kind of a form of colonization, but not through overtaking a society, but setting up a trade post in another place so that they could conduct trade with the people who lived in that area. And it was about, exchange of goods and services rather than going in and brutalizing and
pillaging.
Exactly.
Right.
Because that was a Roman thing. But they showed these people taking slaves and raping and pillaging and taking over.
I even turned to JP in the movie and said, they didn't do that. Remember when I said
yeah,
that? Remember
yeah,
I was
about
like,
the slaves,
I was
right?
like, wait, this isn't historically accurate.
No, and
I'm like criticizing Hollywood.
and I think that that there was more, there was probably warfare amongst the people of the
Sure.
North. Of course, there was.
Yeah,
The
of
Native
course.
Americans. There were wars fought between Native American tribes and nations. Of course,
Mhm.
that's part of the thing. But again, left to our own devices, we are not going to brutalize one another and create these worlds that the
They want us to
the
believe that we're
ruling
going
class
to
believe that we're going to
we're not going to kill each other and eat our own in order to try to in order to survive this. That's not how it that's not why we have been able to evolve to the place that we've evolved, and why we will continue to evolve. You can only evolve through working together. And
what came out of a lot of the real truths or findings, I should say, maybe in a better word, that Darwin found it was the species that cooperated with each other were the ones that survived.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
it's not the survival of the fittest.
Right. That was applied to Darwin theory after the fact, long after he was dead.
Right.
And that was applied, at the turn of the 20th century. And so, we have to remember that, it's about working together, and it's about love, really.
Right. And that's how you are able to evolve. And that's how so Talbot, our friend in Estonia, asked me, he said, do you feel that this is, that we're facing impending doom, or do you have a positive outlook on this? And I was like, kind of both. I feel like we're going to see, we're going to lose a lot, not just through the obvious countermeasures, not through the obvious way, but in more subtle ways as well. We're going to lose a lot. We're going to lose friendships. We're going to lose opportunity. We're going to lose people. And with that loss, whoever's left will work together, step by step, little by little, we'll work together to forge a new
something new.
Something new. And
Yeah.
And so I think that you have to you have to rotate into that loss and experience that be deprived of all the things that you've become accustomed to over time, in order to come out of it,
Yeah.
on the other end.
I think that
unfortunately you can't just go from
right. And
this
I think
sucks, oh look, this is better. You've got to go through the bad shit.
Right. And a lot of us are lamenting the loss of culture and things like that. I think that this is just something that kind of occurred to me, is that we're going to lose the cultural canon, meaning the arts that we've all like held up in highest regard, like Shakespeare and classical music and the classical arts, and you have to remember that a lot of these things, these cultural the canon itself came out of the work that was sponsored by and paid for by the royalty in the first place. And so we have to remember and keep that in mind, that that may not actually be our cultural heritage. That may not be what we need to continue lifting up and holding as part of our again, I'll use the word cultural heritage. We are going to become a new paradigm, or we're going to start living in a new paradigm and creating. I feel like like the people of Bali is a good example, where creating an art and music and performance, and it's all part of your daily life, as opposed to, this is a thing that I made, now I'm going to sell it.
Right.
And I think if we can get to that place where we are not selling our labor outright, but exchanging ourselves, the output of what we do with each other in a smaller society, that we'll be able to move forward in a much more positive way.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's going to be really challenging, though, because unfortunately the people that you would want to do everything that he just said, the people that you would want to work with and the people that you want to gather around you might live 2, 3, 4, 8 states away in another country, especially now. So it's even more challenging. So you have to kind of work with the people that you have in your life right now, as frustrating as that might be. If they're with you and they're on the right side of history, then you've got to accept that until you can get to those other places.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, I guess that kind of like, ends that kind of idea.
Yeah. Thank you for sticking with us, and, for our Rockfin viewers. We started a little bit late with you, so hopefully the entire stream will capture and you can go back and listen to us from the beginning. This has been about a 2-hour
we're coming up on almost 2 hours now.
So we want to just thank you for all of your support and for joining us. We do have some things that are in the hopper, some new video essays that we're working on. Just life, it's been very challenging, and we've had to take care of ourselves and have had to put some things on the back burner, but hopefully we'll be getting some new stuff out, some new fresh content.
And if you haven't gone to see the reason, go check that out. It's on all our platforms. We've been getting some really great reviews from friends and followers about it. So if you haven't seen it, go definitely check. It's 20 minutes. It's not that long, and just take some time out and just block everything out and watch it, because I think it really it's about a lot of the things we've been talking about today.
Yeah, it really is. I think you'll get something out of it, and it's not very long. So
let's see, our next pull quote is coming up, and we're what's his name?
Ken. Yeah. Is it? Yeah, it's Ken.
Yeah.
Ken Avidar. Is that his name?
Yeah. I think so.
Sorry, Ken. He is a cartoonist from Indianapolis. Yeah, Ken Avidar.
Right.
And so we had a brief conversation with him last week just to talk about his work. And so we're going to be showcasing his work and having a conversation with him coming up, and we'll be streaming that soon.
Yeah, so the next pull quote. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay, well, it was great hanging out with you. Happy May Day, and May the 4th be with you in the next few days.
And stay sane.
Stay sane
in the midst of Mental Health Month.
And I don't know if it's going to be on a Tuesday, but Cinco de Mayo is coming up, so we'll celebrate that as well. So have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll talk to you again on our next pull quote and our next bookmark.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bookmark is made possible by our patrons and supporters. You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours. Join Rockfin or leave us a tip at rockfin.com/bookofhours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/bookofhours. Or you can use Cash App. Thank you.